welcome back to art. Today we are going to do a project inspired by artist Paul Gauguin. Paul Gauguin was born in Paris in 1848 and is best known for his paintings of Tahiti. Gauguin left the city of Paris to explore and paint these wild tropical islands. Gauguin's paintings of Tahiti became famous because of their bright, exotic colors and bold style. Today, we are going to be doing a guided drawing of a tropical island paradise in the style of Paul Gauguin. We are going to be using the bright, bold colors similar to Gauguin. And then I want you to think about, what would you take to a tropical paradise island? What would you take with you? I would take lots of beautiful, juicy, and delicious fruits, watermelon. So think about the things you would take to a tropical island. You will be drawing the things that you would take with you to a tropical island paradise. So press pause, go get the supplies you will need, and let's get started. The supplies you will need for this project are 1 sheet of white paper, a pencil, black marker, markers or crayons. If you have painting supplies, you will need watercolor or food coloring if you have it, a paintbrush, a cup of water, and something plastic to mix paint on. Okay, before we get started drawing, I want you to take a look at this drawing here. This is similar to the drawing we're going to be doing today. We are going to be doing a landscape. Well, this is actually a seascape because it's of the ocean, but there are a few things in landscape painting to talk about. There's something called the foreground. That's this area right here, the closest area to the viewer. This is called the middle ground. This is the area that's just beyond the foreground. It's a little bit further away. And this way back here is the background. So foreground, middle ground, background. The background is the furthest away where you will find the horizon line, and usually some hills or clouds. An easier way to call this would be to say here, near, and far. The area in the foreground here, you guys will make up whatever things you want to draw in your foreground. So the idea is that we are on a tropical paradise island, and what would you bring with you? So I chose lots of fruit. That reminds me of summer and the beach. So I decided watermelon and some bananas and limes. And also notice that I don't have black outlines everywhere in my drawing. I chose to do my black outlines in my foreground area to my objects like the watermelon, to this line right here, this is like the sand, and to my palm tree. That makes these objects in the foreground look sharper. They're a little bit bolder. And then everything in the background makes it look like it's a little bit further away because you don't have lots of dark outlines in the areas that are far away. We are going to get started. I'm going to be drawing with a variety of materials today, but I'm going to start with a pencil. That way I can map out the objects in my painting, and I can map it out lightly, and then I can go over it later with my colors and markers and things like that. So let's start by finding the middle of our paper, and we're going to be drawing with our paper in portrait mode, so vertically up and down. And we're going to find the middle of the page, right about there, and we're going to go just above the middle, so here to here. And we're going to draw a light horizon line all the way across. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight. This is going to be where the ocean ends, and the mountains will go just above that. So you have the horizon line. Up here, we're just going to do two light mountain lines, so we'll just go down to there, and then maybe we'll come up a little ways onto this mountain, and we'll do a mountain in the back. So now we have our farthest area, our background of our painting, back here in pencil. And now we're going to draw our foreground line. This will be the line where the sand ends. So let's come about this far up, and we're going to draw a little dot, and we're just going to do a kind of bumpy line or a wavy line down to about there. Foreground, background. This is going to all be ocean right here. And now that we have those areas drawn in, we can start to draw the most important part of our painting, which is going to be the palm tree and the objects in our foreground. You can draw along with me if you want to draw fruit. I'm going to do watermelon and lots of different tropical fruits in my foreground. You can draw whatever you want, or you can draw along with me. So I'm going to start with my palm tree, and we're going to draw straight over the tops of these lines here. We can always color over it or erase later. So we'll come down here to the bottom, right about there on our page, and make a mark. And right about here and make a mark. That's going to be the base of our palm tree. Now we're going to do this line right here. We're going to do a big bended line all the way up to about there. Now go to next to that, and we're going to follow that bended line, but on the other side you're going to go all the way down, and it's going to get a little wider at the bottom. We're going to meet up with that line that we made at the bottom of the page. This is the tree trunk of our palm tree here. Next thing we're going to do is make the palms, the big palm fronds, the leaves of the palm tree. So we're going to start here, and we're just going to make a bunch of kind of rounded zigzag lines. We'll stop there, and then we'll turn and we'll make another rounded zigzag, kind of a bumpy line, and we're going to come right about there and stop. Okay, let's join here, and we're going to do another rounded bumpy line, and it kind of goes to a point, and then we're going to turn and do some more rounded zigzag lines, and go back down and stop. I think we'll do about 3 more big palm leaves. So let's come to this little point right here, and we're going to do some more zigzag types of lines. And this palm frond is going to stop. We ran out of space, so we'll just cut it off right there. And then let's move over about to right here, and we'll just continue back down. Stop there. Now let's do another. We're just going to do part of the leaves here. And come down. And one last palm leaf in this area here. This one I think we'll have it kind of bend down. So you're doing some zigzag type of lines down to there. And then we're going to turn and do some more zigzag lines going up to there. And if there's any areas where you need to connect lines, you can. And we can do some lines down the middle of our palm leaves like that. So this area here, this used to be our mountain. So anywhere, the mountain is obviously behind the palm tree because it's very far away. So you can erase anywhere where the mountain overlaps your palm tree, or we can just color over it later. We will now start to draw the objects in our foreground. So I'm going to be drawing watermelon slices and bananas and limes, oranges and fruits and flowers and things like that in this area down here. Let's see, I'll start with some leaves over in this area right here. I'll just do some big tropical leaves coming out from the side. Just lots of zigzag, big, jungly plants. And maybe a flower. And I'll do another flower here. And then I can start drawing my fruit. So I'm going to be going over my pencil lines with a black Sharpie in a little bit, but right now I'm just laying in the objects in pencil first. So this down here, I'll do a nice big slice of watermelon. And some fruit. A banana. I'll make 2 bananas. And maybe some more flowers. And another big slice of watermelon. And what other things? Maybe I'll put an apple right here. I love to eat fruit while I'm at the beach. And then I can do some more leaves maybe coming out here. Okay, so we have the foreground, all the objects in the foreground, and this is the ocean, and the background, which is the hills, the horizon line, and the sky. So we will start coloring in and also using the marker on certain things, the black marker, to outline. And I'm going to use, to color in, I'm going to use a combination of watercolors, crayons, and markers. So, in the foreground, I'm going to outline my palm tree. And you can also pick and choose different lines that you want to outline and different lines that you want to just leave with pencil. So I'm going to do the middles of my leaves in black, and then I might leave some of the pencil lines with just a few black outlines. You don't have to outline the whole thing. We can go in with our colors and darken it with our crayons or markers or paints. Same with this line here on our palm tree. You can just do parts of it outlined and leave parts of it. And for objects down here, okay, notice I didn't do all the outlines. That's okay, because we can come in with our colors and darken those lines using crayon or marker. So this is the start. The next thing we're going to do is color everything in. The colors in front, in our foreground here, are going to be the brightest, and also our palm tree. They're going to be the bold colors. As the colors go back to the background, further away from us, they will get a little bit lighter. The first thing I'll do is color my fruit. I'm going to use a combination of marker and crayon for my fruit so that it's nice and bright. those are the objects in my foreground. If there's any pencil lines that you want to cover up, you can do that with marker or crayon. Just gives a little more color. And now we can paint our palm tree or color that in. I'm going to use lots of different colors because Paul Gauguin used a lot of very bold colors in his paintings. So I will start with some orange. And I'll even use a combination of red, crayon, and one side of my palm tree trunk is going to be darker than the other side. I decided this side of my palm tree is going to be shadow, just this side, because perhaps the sunlight will be hitting this side, which would create a shadow on this side. So I'm just going to color one side of my tree trunk a little bit darker. So I'll keep the red down here, and I think I'll take a brown and just add a little bit of brown right next to my edge. Just creates the appearance of a shadow. And a little bit of yellow on this side so that it looks like it's lit up by the sun. Okay, so we have lots of colors in this trunk. Yellow, orange, a little bit of red, and brown on this side for the shadow. Now I'm going to add a lot of different colors to my palm leaves as well. So I'm just going to use a different combination of things. So I think I will do some lighter green on one side. So I'm just going to pick one side of my leaves to do a little bit lighter green. And then I'm going to take a darker green and go into the middle, and I might even follow some of the outlines with green. And just for fun, I'm going to throw in a little bit of some orange color. Just to make these leaves a little bit more colorful. Gauguin used lots of different colors in all of his tropical paintings, so we're just going to have fun. I use my darker green. Notice I'm not being perfect about the way I color these. It's a little bit messy because it's just a certain style. It's a little bit looser. Okay, that's a pretty bright palm tree. I like it. So the rest of the color you can do with crayons or markers, whatever you want. I'm going to be using my watercolors, and I'll show you a few techniques with that. Otherwise, you can use crayons or markers, whatever you have available. In this area here, this is the foreground, so like I said, it's going to be a little bit brighter. So because this is sand, I'm going to do a combination of orange and yellow. If you're using watercolor, it's easy to get the area wet first with your brush, with your water. I'll put this here so you can see. I'm just rinsing off my brush in between colors. You can get the area wet first, and then you can get your color and add your color into the areas around your objects. This is supposed to look like sand. Remember, if you don't have watercolors, you can also use food coloring. Okay, that's my foreground. Nice and bright and bold, all these objects in here. Clean your brush if you're using watercolors. One thing before we get started, I'm going to do this with a crayon, a blue crayon. I'm going to add a little bit of texture to my water. That might just look like some little dashed lines here. The reason I'm doing this before I add watercolor is so that when we add water to our page, it makes the paper very thin, and it can often tear the paper if we make marks onto a wet piece of paper. We're going to do our crayon lines first. I'm just adding some little waves, some little lines. Oops. I just broke my crayon. And I'm going also to add a blue crayon line to my horizon, just to make that horizon line nice and bold. So everything in this area I'm going to paint blue. So I'm going to get my brush wet first, and I'm going to work in little sections at a time. I'm going to get my page a little bit wet, and then I'm going to get my brush nice and covered with watercolor, and then I can keep working. As the water starts getting closer to our foreground, we're going to make the blue color a little bit bolder. Okay, we're almost done with the water, and then we'll move on to the sky and the mountains in our background area. Okay. There we go. Nice and bright and bold colors up close to us in the foreground. And then the water, as it goes towards the middle ground, it starts to fade a little and it gets a little bit lighter in the background. So the sky and the hills are going to be a little bit lighter. So if you're using crayons, you might use a light green color I'm going to outline my mountains like that. Just a little bit, and then I'm going to fill them in with watercolor. These are going to be a light green color. And I might add just a little touch of orange. Okay, we only have one little area left, and that is the sky. So I'm going to make the sky the lightest area of my entire painting. That means if you're using crayons, you're going to cover the area very lightly. If you're using paints, you're going to cover your white area with water first, and then just use the lightest blue you have, and you're just going to use a little bit. You can add more water to your paint to make it a little bit lighter. So you are using more water than paint, and you're getting your paper a little bit wet first. So it's a very light blue. There. So now you can look over it. If you like it, awesome. I'm going to add, I decided I want this area of my water to be just a little bit darker blue, so I'm just going to add a little bit. I'm going to layer on a little bit more blue paint. And I may not even cover it all over. I might just give it some little dash marks to give it some texture. And one last thing I forgot to add to my watermelons. I forgot to add seeds. So I'm just going to do a few little watermelon seeds here. Okay. So here's a picture of my tropical island paradise. I hope you've had fun drawing with me and learning about artist Paul Gauguin. Till next time, I've had fun making art with you. Bye-bye.